Welcome to Backyard Cigars. I've got a quick smoke here. Hoyo de Monterey. And this is a 4.5 by 50 Rothschild. Now, if you've seen previous videos where I've said Rothschild, it's because a German friend of mine was trying to get me to pronounce it in German and I just butchered it. So I just was kind of saying Rothschild, which he says is not incorrect, but I'm American, so it's Rothschild. And this is an Ecuadorian Sumatra wrapper with a Connecticut broadleaf binder and a filler that is a blend of Dominican Piloto Cubano, Honduran, and Nicaraguan. Got a lot of different countries up in here. But it's something that's been sitting in my humidor now for about a year and 3 months. So I wanted to get around to it. I purchased it because it was recommended to me as a good quick smoke. And as this develops a bit, long night of boxing last night. Some of you caught it. Tyson Fury knocked out Deontay Wilder. And I predicted it was going to happen months ago. But on fight night, you know, the catchphrase was, you think you know, but you don't. And that was absolutely true for in many regards because of the knockout power that Deontay Wilder has. It's a tremendous amount of knockout power. And then they kind of boasted about some analytics of how his increase in weight contributed to a 250% increase in power, which kind of reminded me of Ivan Drago and the way that they were measuring his power, which is possible. You can measure a person's punching power. But to increase 250%, it's kind of unheard of. But I think that was a little bit of psychological warfare, just to kind of put that in the back of the mind of your opponent to let him know that you're hitting even harder now. So if you thought I hit hard before, it's coming on another level now. I didn't see that 250% increase in power. But even if it was true, which I doubt, it's best said in the way that Deontay Wilder's trainer told him that you've got the most dangerous weapon in boxing, but you've got to know how to execute it. It's got to come behind something. So, fight started off with what seemed to be some new tricks by Deontay Wilder, emphasizing on the jab, to the body, to the soft areas, and to the open areas that he could target. And it seemed like that would be a recipe for success if he could maintain doing that. But what happens with some fighters, especially some fighters, when we're talking about your mindset and how certain fighters are so egotistical, so narcissistic, and especially when they fall in love with their power, that they revert back to that. It's what they know, and it's what's worked for them in the past. And I get that. It's a Hail Mary in some cases, right? When you're going for that knockout in the later rounds because you're behind in the cards and you're going to use that weapon because it's all you have left. But it's different when you've actually tried at the beginning of the fight or throughout the major part of the fight to execute a game plan, a fight plan, where you're coming from behind your jab, setting up combinations, and actually using your movement to get in position to land that punch, as opposed to just falling into the old habits, which is what Deontay Wilder did, which is exactly what I predicted he would do. Because I don't really think I don't think he's a good boxer, and a lot of people know that. And I mean, he was exposed in the very first fight as not being a very good boxer. And mind you, I followed Deontay Wilder from the very beginning of his career, and I saw some of the gradual improvements in his footwork and in his ability to try to throw a jab and try to set up punches and execute. And against lesser opponents, you're going to be able to do that successfully without having to rely on those basics. You might be able to do that against an overage Cuban fighter who, while tough, can box. I'm talking about King Kong, and you'll be able to do that against heavyweights that are not as defensive minded as someone like Tyson Fury. But what I saw last night is exactly what I expected, at least in the end result. Didn't expect it to be as great a fight as it was, but that just comes with the territory. When two heavyweights, especially two of the top heavyweights in the world, get into the ring, you're gonna see some action, and they did not disappoint. But I just thought that there were little mistakes that Deontay Wilder was making that I felt there were mistakes that should not be made by a top tier heavyweight, especially someone that professes to be a champion. I mean, putting your head down against the slightly bigger man overall, of course, especially in terms of weight, but putting your head down and becoming susceptible to that uppercut that Tyson Fury utilized in the second fight very effectively and did so once more is not a good move. Definitely not a good move. And there was very little footwork on or at least effective footwork from Deontay Wilder, other than slightly moving this way, then moving that way, and not really knowing where he's going, other than I want to throw the right hand, which is what he went back to time and time again. And you can ask Conor McGregor about this. You can have the most powerful right hand or left hand in your combat sport, but once people know, right, they know to watch out for it. And if you telegraph it, well, you're really removing a lot of the efficiency of that punch, because now I see it coming. Now I know that's what you're loading up on, and he still managed to get it through and get 2 knockdowns on Tyson Fury, because I didn't think that Fury really went in there to move and do his little herky-jerky movement, which he's very well known for. I didn't see much of that. There was a little bit of that after the knockdowns, because obviously he was still a little shaking, didn't want to get hit with that again. Don't blame him for that. But there wasn't that herky-jerky movement. There was more of the mauling approach, where I'm going to maul you with my size. And obviously Tyson Fury can punch. We know this. He's not a puncher in the classic sense like a Deontay Wilder or George Foreman or Ernie Shavers, but what he offers is versatility, right? He can jab, he can move, he can grab and reset. And for those of you who may have thought, well, so all those grabbing and leaning, look, leaning is a part of the sport. I mean, especially in the heavyweight division, that's something that the great Emmanuel Stewart taught his top heavyweights, how to lean on your opponent with your weight, weigh him down and tire him out and tire that back out, and obviously wear him down to the point where you could soften him up for your own offensive attack. It's part of a strategy. It isn't because he's scared or because he's afraid to engage. It's part of strategy. And it's part of the game. It's part of the fight game, and you've got to come prepared for that. Look, you're 6'7", the dude's 6'9", 6'10". Yeah, he's got you by a few inches, but you know what? You got to come prepared for that. You don't drop your head and you know, there was a point when he was Wilder was so fatigued that he was holding on for dear life. So yeah, those are some of my notes there on the fight. On the cigar, this is cedar, cream, and pepper. That's what I'm getting, and it's quite enjoyable for what it is. It's a $4.50 cigar. Um, it's a pretty much straightforward note on this. I've had them before, and but I haven't had them, aged for a year, so it's nice and smooth. The pepper is subdued after a year. It's a really nice cigar. Good morning smoke if you're interested in a morning smoke. But going back to the fight, look, the better man won, and I know it's hard for a lot of people to accept that. But one of the things that makes a champion a great champion, and I'll leave you with this, is learning how to accept defeat and doing so graciously and not being a sore loser about it. So when we talk about a guy like Deontay Wilder that won't shake hands after the fight, uh, and, 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 and comes up with a lot of excuses and reasons, and is just angry that he lost. Look, we all get it. It's horrible to lose a fight, especially on that type of stage. But you've got to be a big man. You've got to be a champion and be respectful to the sport, to the fans, to yourself, to your opponent, and shake that other man's hand and let it be. It doesn't have to be where you hug him and give him a kiss like in other fights where there's a tight embrace and there's an exchange of kind words. But at the very least, a handshake, and stop making excuses. You lose, you lose. There's always going to be someone who bests you. And just because you have the most powerful punch in all of boxing doesn't make you invincible. And we saw that again last night. Thank you for watching. Until next time on Backyard Cigars.